The night my parents called me a beggar was the same night they threw me out of the house I paid for, in front of 12 relatives sitting around a polished oak dining table worth more than my first car. My father didn't even look up when he said it, just tapped his wine glass and told me there was no space in his home for someone like me. My mother laughed softly, like it was a joke everyone understood but me, and my sister actually leaned back in her chair, smiling like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. And when I stood there holding the lottery ticket that had just changed everything, they told me to leave, or they would call security. Before I go any further, if this story speaks to your heart, take a second to like and subscribe, only if it truly resonates with you. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I read every single one. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29 years old, and 2 weeks ago was the night my own family tried to erase me, not knowing they were about to lose everything. It all started long before the money, long before the ticket, back in a house that everyone thought belonged to my parents, but never really did. Growing up in that house in Westchester, everything had a place and everyone had a role. My father, Robert Carter, ran the kind of business where he wore suits even on Sundays and spoke like every conversation was a negotiation. My mother, Patricia, cared about appearances more than anything else, the kind of woman who would rearrange furniture before guests arrived but never ask how you were doing. And then there was my younger sister, Olivia. Olivia was what my parents called an investment. She got everything. Private school tuition that cost more than most people's mortgages. A brand new BMW when she turned 18, complete with a ribbon on the hood. A condo in Manhattan that my father proudly told people he helped her secure. Me? I got a room at the end of the hallway, and a quiet understanding that I was supposed to figure things out on my own. I worked part-time jobs all through high school, then full-time through college, stacking savings, learning to live without asking for anything, because every time I did I saw that look. The one that said I wasn't worth it. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I didn't need them. But the truth is, when you grow up in a house like that, you spend your whole life trying to prove you belong in it. Even after I graduated, even after I started making my own money, I stayed. I paid for things quietly. The internet bill. Then the property taxes one year when my dad said cash flow was tight. Then the kitchen renovation my mom wanted but claimed they weren't ready for yet. I never made a big deal out of it. I never asked for credit, because in my mind it was still their house, their family, their approval I was chasing. And the craziest part? They let me believe that. They let me keep giving, keep contributing, keep showing up, while slowly convincing me I was the one who had nothing. I didn't know it then, but everything I thought I understood about that house, about my place in that family, was built on something they hoped I would never question. And the night I won that $25 million lottery ticket was the night that illusion finally started to crack. The day I bought that lottery ticket did not feel important at the time. It was a Tuesday, just after 6 in the evening, and I had stopped at a gas station on Route 117 on my way home from work. I remember standing in line behind a man arguing over pump number 3, scrolling through emails on my phone, thinking about the property tax bill that was due at the end of the month. My father had mentioned it casually over breakfast that morning, said it might be a little tight this quarter, and I had already decided I would cover it without telling anyone. That was the pattern. Quiet fixes. Quiet support. No acknowledgement. When it was my turn at the counter, I grabbed a bottle of water and, almost as an afterthought, asked for a Mega Millions ticket. Quick pick. One line. $2. I did not even check the numbers that night. I left the ticket in my wallet and forgot about it for 3 days. It was not until Friday morning, sitting in my car outside the office parking garage, that I finally opened the app and scanned it. The screen froze for a second, then refreshed, and I saw a number that did not make sense. $25 million. I remember staring at it, thinking it was a glitch, refreshing again and again until my hands started to shake. I did not scream. I did not cry. I just sat there, engine running, heart beating so hard it felt like it was echoing in the car. And the first thought I had was not about cars or vacations or anything people usually talk about. The first thought I had was, maybe now they will finally see me. That same night, I went home earlier than usual. The house was already full. My mother had invited relatives over for dinner, something about my uncle being in town. 12 people, maybe more, voices overlapping, the smell of roasted chicken and rosemary filling the kitchen. Olivia was in the center of it all, telling a story about a trip she was planning to Miami, laughing, everyone leaning in like she was the most interesting person in the room. No one noticed when I walked in. No one asked why I was home early. I stood there for a second holding my bag, listening to them, and I felt that familiar feeling settle in my chest. Invisible. I went upstairs, changed, and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the ticket in my hand. $25 million. It felt unreal, but it also felt like something else. A test. I walked back downstairs about 20 minutes later. Dinner was already being served. My father was at the head of the table, my mother beside him, Olivia across, exactly where she always sat. There was an empty seat at the far end. Mine. I took it quietly, folding my hands in my lap as plates were passed around me. Conversation moved easily without me, like it always did. I waited until there was a pause, a small opening, and then I spoke. I told them I had something to share. My voice sounded calm. Too calm. My father glanced at me briefly, then nodded for me to continue. I placed the ticket on the table. Not dramatically. Just set it down between the salt and pepper shakers. I said I had one. That it was real. That I had already verified it. For a moment no one reacted. Then my mother let out a small laugh, like I had told a joke that did not quite land. Olivia raised an eyebrow, smiling slightly like she was humoring me. My father leaned back in his chair, studying me, and asked one question. Who helped you? Not congratulations. Not how. Just that. Who helped you? I remember blinking, not understanding. I told him no one. That I bought it myself. That it was just luck. The room shifted then. Subtly. Conversations stopped. My mother set her fork down. Olivia crossed her arms. My father's expression hardened in a way I had seen before, usually in meetings, when he thought someone was lying to him. And that was the moment I realized something was wrong. Because they were not happy. They were not surprised. They were suspicious. And that was only the beginning of what they were about to do. My father did not touch the ticket. He did not even look at it for more than a second before leaning back in his chair and letting out a slow breath like he had just confirmed something he already believed. Then he smiled, but it was not the kind of smile you give your daughter when she shares good news. It was the kind you give someone you think just made a mistake. He asked me again, slower this time, who helped you, Emily, because this does not happen by accident. I told him again, no one. I said I bought it on my way home, that it was random, that it was verified. My voice stayed calm, but I could feel every eye at that table on me now. My mother tilted her head slightly, studying me like she was trying to find the flaw in my story. Olivia gave a small laugh under her breath and said that was cute, like I was pretending to be something I was not. One of my uncles asked if I was serious, but even that sounded more like curiosity than belief. And then my father reached forward, finally picking up the ticket, holding it between two fingers like it was something fragile or maybe something dirty. He looked at it, then at me, and then he placed it back down on the table with a soft tap. He said if this was real, then there would be paperwork, there would be verification, there would be people involved, and until then he was not interested in stories. I nodded. I did not argue. I just said I had already started the process, that I had an appointment scheduled to claim it officially. That was when the room shifted again. Not softer. Sharper. My mother straightened in her chair and asked when the appointment was, her tone suddenly precise, focused. Olivia leaned forward now, no longer smiling, asking how much exactly, like the number mattered more than anything else. 25 million, I said. And I watched it land. Not like joy. Not like pride. It landed like calculation. My father's posture changed first. He sat up, his expression tightening, eyes narrowing slightly like he was running numbers in his head. My mother's hand moved to her glass, but she did not drink. Olivia's gaze flicked from me to my father, then back again like she was waiting for direction. No one said congratulations. No one asked how I felt. Instead, my father cleared his throat and asked a different question. Where is the ticket now? I told him it was with me, that I had it secured. He nodded slowly, then said that was not how these things should be handled, that something like that needed proper management, legal oversight, someone experienced. He said it like he was offering help, but it did not feel like help. Felt like a shift in ownership. My mother added that we needed to be careful, that people could take advantage, that I might not understand what I was dealing with. Olivia said I should not make any decisions alone, that this was too big for me. Too big for me. I remember that phrase clearly, because it was the same phrase they used when they decided things for me my entire life. I just listened. I nodded. I let them talk over me, around me, about me. And then my father said something that made everything click into place. He said, "We will handle this as a family. Not you. Not me. We." And in that moment I realized they were not questioning the ticket anymore. They had already decided it was real. What they were deciding now was how to take control of it. And that was the moment I stopped trying to prove anything. Because for the first time I understood exactly what they saw when they looked at me. Not a daughter. Not someone to be proud of. Just an opportunity they did not want to lose. I did not argue with them that night. I did not raise my voice or try to defend myself the way I might have years ago. I just sat there, listening as they slowly rewrote the situation in real time, turning something that belonged to me into something they believed they were entitled to manage. My father started outlining next steps like he was already in charge, talking about financial advisors, legal teams, tax strategies, all the things he thought I would not understand. My mother nodded along, adding that we needed to move quickly before anyone else found out, before it became complicated. Olivia was already on her phone, searching something, probably properties or investments, her expression focused in a way I had never seen directed at me before. And the entire time no one asked what I wanted. Not once. I remember sitting there with my hands folded in my lap, the same way I had done my entire life, letting them speak over me, around me, deciding things for me. But something inside me had shifted. It was small at first. Just a quiet realization. I did not have to say anything, because they were showing me exactly who they were. Again, dinner ended without any celebration. Plates were cleared. Conversations moved on to other topics, but there was an undercurrent now, something sharp and controlled. My father asked me to stay behind after everyone else moved into the living room. My mother stayed too. Olivia hovered near the doorway, pretending to scroll through her phone but clearly listening. My father closed the door halfway and sat back down at the table, his hands folded neatly in front of him. He spoke in that calm, measured tone he used in business meetings. He said we needed to talk about responsibility, that money like this could ruin people if it was not handled correctly, that I did not have the experience to manage something of this scale. I nodded. I let him finish. Then my mother leaned forward and said something that landed harder than anything else that night. She said, "Emily, this is not just yours. You would not even be here without this family. Everything you have comes from us. So it is only fair that we decide how it is used." I remember looking at her, really looking at her, and realizing she believed that. Completely. Olivia stepped in then, finally speaking directly to me, saying we should combine resources, pool everything together, make smarter investments as a unit. She said it like she was offering me something generous. Like I should be grateful. And that was when I understood. They were not asking. They were positioning. I picked up the ticket from the table, sliding it back toward me, and said quietly that I had already made an appointment to claim it on my own. That I appreciated their concern, but I would handle it. The silence that followed was immediate. Heavy. My father's expression changed first, the calm dropping just slightly, replaced by something colder. He said that was not how this was going to work. My mother's voice sharpened, asking if I was being serious. Olivia let out a small laugh, but there was no humor in it this time. I stood up slowly, still holding the ticket, and said yes. I was serious. And that was the moment everything snapped. My father pushed his chair back and stood, not yelling, not losing control, just speaking in a tone that was somehow worse because of how steady it was. He said if I was going to make decisions like that, if I was going to act independently, then I needed to understand what that meant. My mother crossed her arms, her expression tight, and said they would not support someone who did not respect the family. Olivia looked at me like she did not recognize me anymore. And then my father said the words that would change everything. He said if I was not willing to be part of this family in the right way, then maybe I should not be part of it at all. I did not respond. I just stood there holding the one thing they suddenly cared about more than me and waited, because I could feel it coming. The moment they would finally show me exactly how far they were willing to go. The silence did not last long. My father was the first to move, walking past me toward the front hallway with a calm that felt rehearsed, like he had already decided what came next. My mother followed him without hesitation, and Olivia lingered just long enough to give me a look that was not confusion or even anger, but something colder, something like disappointment. Not in herself. In me. I stood there for a moment, still holding the ticket, listening to the sound of the front door opening, the quiet murmur of voices in the hallway, and then my father called my name. Not loudly, just enough for me to hear. When I stepped into the hallway, he was already holding my coat. He handed it to me the same way you hand something to a guest who has overstayed their welcome. He said if I was going to make my own decisions, then I could live with them somewhere else. My mother added that it would be good for me, that independence builds character. Olivia leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching, saying nothing now. I remember looking at all three of them, waiting for someone to soften, for someone to say this had gone too far, that it was just a conversation that got out of hand. No one did. My father opened the door wider and stepped aside. The night air rushed in, cold and sharp, carrying the faint sound of cars passing on the street. He said again, calmly, "There is no space here for someone who refuses to be part of this family." And then my mother said it, the words that stayed with me longer than anything else. She said there is no space for beggars. Beggars. I felt the word land, not loud, not explosive, just heavy. Final. I nodded. Not because I agreed. Not because I accepted it, but because in that moment I understood there was nothing left to say. I put on my coat slowly, slipped the ticket safely into my bag, and walked past them toward the door. No one stopped me. No one called after me. I stepped outside onto the front steps of the house I had helped pay for, the house I had spent years maintaining, supporting, quietly investing in without ever asking for recognition. And the door closed behind me, just like that. I stood there for a second, looking at the dark windows, hearing the muffled voices inside already returning to normal, like I had never been there at all. Did not cry. I did not knock. I just walked to my car, unlocked it, and sat inside with my hands resting on the steering wheel. The engine was off. The street was quiet. And for the first time in my life I felt something unfamiliar. Not anger. Not sadness. Clarity. Because everything they had just done confirmed what I had started to realize earlier that night. I was never part of their plans. I was only useful when I stayed quiet, when I contributed without question, when I fit into the role they assigned me. The moment I stepped outside that role, I became disposable. I reached into my bag and took out the ticket, looking at it under the dim light from the dashboard. $25 million. $2 that changed everything. Not because of the money itself, but because of what it revealed. I thought about going back inside, about knocking on the door and trying to fix it like I had done so many times before in smaller ways. But I did not. Instead, I started the car. I drove away without looking back. And as I turned onto the main road, I made a decision. I was not going to fight them. I was not going to argue or prove anything. I was just going to let things unfold. Because they thought I had lost everything the moment I walked out that door. They thought I had nothing. And that was exactly why they never saw what was coming next. 2 weeks later, I stood in a quiet office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown White Plains. The kind of place where everything felt deliberate and controlled. Nothing like the house I had just left behind. My life was not perfect now, but it was clear. I had my own space, my own decisions, my own silence without judgment. And for the first time, that silence felt peaceful instead of lonely. The lawyer across from me adjusted a stack of documents and asked one simple question, the same one that would change everything. Who is the real owner of the ticket? My parents were sitting across the table, dressed like they belonged there, confident, composed, already speaking as if the money was theirs. They did not look at me. Not yet. I answered calmly. I said my name. I handed over the documents. I had quietly kept the purchase record, the payment trail, everything tied directly to me. The room shifted in a way I cannot fully describe, but I saw it in their faces. The confidence faded. The certainty cracked. And for the first time, they were the ones who did not understand what was happening. They turned pale, just like that moment I had imagined, but it did not feel like victory. Felt like closure. Because in that moment I was not proving anything to them anymore. I was just reclaiming something that had always been mine. Life now is quieter. Smaller in some ways but more honest. I do not chase approval anymore. I do not explain my worth. I protect it. And if there is one thing this taught me, It is that love without respect is not love, and family without boundaries can become something that slowly erases you if you let it. If you are listening to this and you feel like you are always the one giving, always the one shrinking to fit into someone else's expectations, I want you to know you are not invisible. You are not less. And you do not need anyone's permission to choose yourself. Thank you for staying with me through this story, for listening, for understanding in ways I did not think anyone would. It means more than I can say. And if this story resonates with you, I would love to know, what was the moment in your life when you realized you deserved better? And if you are still waiting for that moment, maybe this is it. My name is Emily Carter, I am 29 years old, and the lesson I want to leave you with is this. Never let anyone define your value when they have never taken the time to see it.